Hey, today we are diving into one of the most explosive warnings to emerge from the Russian State Duma since this war began. Gennady Zyuganov, the veteran leader of Russia's Communist Party, stood at the podium, eyes locked on Vladimir Putin's allies, and uttered a word no Kremlin insider ever wants to hear: revolution. The echoes of 1917 are reverberating through Russia once more, as something immense begins to fracture the country. The people are growing restless. The old czars of yesterday seem poised to return in spirit, and all Putin can do is struggle against a rising tide that threatens to sweep him away. Zyuganov warned during the plenary session of the State Duma, Russia's lower house of parliament just ahead of the September elections. His words were barbed, cloaked in a veneer of support, but the message cut deep. "We are doing everything we can to support President Vladimir Putin and his strategy and policies," Zyuganov declared. "But you, the government, are not listening." His rhetoric cleverly shifted blame. Putin is the government. His allies are failing. Zyuganov laid the consequences squarely at Putin's feet without saying his name. The warning was chilling. If the government fails to adopt urgent financial, economic, and other measures by autumn, Zyuganov said, a repeat of 1917 awaits. "We do not have the right to repeat that." "Let's take some decisions," he blared. This was no empty threat. Zyuganov was painting a Russia sliding toward a dead end under oligarchic capitalism, neglecting investments in victory, families, and the nation itself. Another 600,000 people died last year, he noted. The society is strained, the economy unraveling, and the oligarchs continue their corruption and accumulation while ordinary Russians suffer. This is Putin's society under the microscope. The economic collapse, the human losses, the extreme consequences of war, these are the ghosts of 1917 returning. The New Age czar hides in his ivory bunker, billions secured while his country burns. Zyuganov is signaling to the people that the system is failing and that change is inevitable. And just days before his fiery speech, events hinted at exactly what he aimed to achieve. Zyuganov's veiled criticism of Putin's war policies was unmistakable. The man who promises stability has delivered chaos for over 4 years. After wartime growth of 4.3% in 2023 and 2024, the economy slumped in 2025. GDP growth was only 1%, with a drop to 0.8% anticipated in 2026, until an oil windfall tied to Operation Epic Fury in Iran nudged the IMF to raise its projections to 1.1%. Yet cracks beneath the surface, along with visible signs, confirmed that Russia's economy was failing, exactly as Zyuganov suggested. Death tolls compounded the crisis. Another 600,000 died last year, many on the battlefields in Ukraine, part of a war that Ukraine estimates has cost Russia over 125,000 dead and wounded in 4 years. The parallels to 1917 were undeniable. Economic strain, mass casualties, incompetent leadership, and a populace questioning the purpose of endless sacrifices. On April 10th, just days before the explosive Duma speech, Zyuganov addressed voters directly, warning that if authorities did not allow them to correct the situation at the September ballot, the country would face inevitable defeat. He posed a stark choice: capitalism with war or socialism with justice. His message was clear. Putin's Russia is failing, and without change, collapse looms both in Ukraine and at home. Zyuganov also cautioned that Russia's weakened state makes it a prime target for the United States, citing Venezuela and Iran as examples. "China is first, we are second, Iran is third, he said, warning that Russia risks being torn apart worse than Yugoslavia, Iraq, and Libya combined. Putin's own actions were revealing. On April 15th, while Zyuganov spoke of revolution, Putin publicly scolded top economic officials over the country's contraction. GDP had fallen 1.8% in January and February of 2026 compared to the previous year, with manufacturing, industrial production, and construction all negative. For a man who has spent decades spinning setbacks into victories, this public admission was extraordinary. Panic is evident within the Kremlin, and the pot is empty. The reserves used to prop up businesses through years of war spending have largely run dry. Hiring freezes, looming layoffs, and declining exports add fuel to the fire. Russia's central bank cut its key interest rate to 14.5% from 21% in May 2025, signaling not recovery, but desperation. Defensive spending alone is set at 12.93 trillion rubles for 2026, about $161 billion, with real military spending in 2025 at 7.3% of GDP, roughly $198 billion, far above official declarations. The money comes from the people: healthcare, pensions, new taxes, cuts to schools and hospitals. And while the Iran war temporarily boosted oil prices, Ukraine has actively cut Russian exports, slashing crude by 300,000 barrels per day and refined products by 200,000 barrels. The lifeline is being severed, and every Russian feels it. Zyuganov's references to 1917 are literal, drawn from the spreadsheet of a regime running out of money, soldiers, and time. The question remains, how long can this war machine keep running on empty before the engine finally seizes?